The potential for falling from a height, being struck by a moving or falling object, contacting overhead power lines, and many other dangers exist on drilled shaft construction sites. ADSC, the International Association of Foundation Drilling, joins with your company to emphasize the critical importance of safety in your workplace. It is literally a matter of life and death. The foundation drilling industry is inherently dangerous. Every day, you and your fellow employees are at risk. The potential for injury and even death clearly exists, and you must be aware of this fact with every thought and action. Safety must be your number one priority. Safety isn't just a slogan, it's a way of life. In the next few minutes, we will look at a number of specific job-related danger areas. The purpose of this presentation is to highlight major risk areas and to help you realize that situations you may take for granted can be the most dangerous. Safe productivity is the goal. Even a minor oversight of a safe working procedure can have devastating results. Whether you're a seasoned veteran or a rookie, you should not underestimate or ignore a high-risk situation just because it is familiar. It can be the worst safety decision you will ever make. Always work above a reasonable level of safety. Remember, when you gamble with safety, you bet your life. How safe is your work environment? The answer is a function of three distinct considerations. First, knowledge. Training is the key to knowledge. Fundamental safety training will give each employee the knowledge to recognize potential hazards that exist around a drilled shaft. The use of personal protective equipment, proper lifting techniques, the use of a fire extinguisher, and other basic training is important to every employee's safety in the workplace. Hazardous materials and chemicals are present on drilled shaft projects. Gasoline, diesel fuel, oxygen, acetylene, oils, grease, solvents, drilling fluid, welding rods or wire, and concrete are just a few examples. Employees must learn the proper procedures necessary to handle these hazardous materials. Specific information about the hazardous materials on site must be readily available to employees. One source of safe handling information is a Safety Data Sheet, or SDS. Each employee must know the location of the data sheet and how to understand the written information and symbols. Emergency procedures must be in place at every job site. Employees must know the location of posted emergency phone numbers and the location of the nearest medical facility. Emergency procedures for situations such as downhole rescue must be understood by each employee. Near-miss incidents should be reported so the conditions are corrected to prevent the incident from happening again. Report any injuries to your supervisor at once, according to your employer's safety policy. A dedicated drill rig operator and crane mount drill rig operator must be trained on the safe operation of their drill rig according to the manufacturer and all local, state, and federal requirements. Now, many crane operators are required to have some form of certification or license to operate a crane. Check your local, state, or federal regulations for these requirements. Basic drill rig safety information can be found in the ADSC's Drilling Operators Machine Safety Guide. This booklet can be used in addition with the employer's safety program to help ensure each employee is trained on how to perform their jobs safely. In addition to this fundamental safety training, field supervisors, foremen, rig operators, and project managers should receive supplemental safety information consisting of OSHA construction safety and health training. This intensified safety training is available through your local ADSC chapter membership. Daily pre-task safety and production meetings, along with a general weekly safety meeting, are great tools to reinforce the employer's safety policy and safety training procedures. No employee should have to guess as to what a procedure is, and with the proper training, no employee will ignore a hazardous situation. They will correct it. Daily pre-task safety and production meetings, along with a general weekly safety meeting, are great tools to reinforce the employer's safety policy and safety training procedures. No employee should have to guess as to what a procedure is, and with the proper training, no employee will ignore a hazardous situation. They will correct it. The second important consideration for a safe work environment is work habits. The only way to do any job is safely. Every movement on a job site holds the potential for disaster. A careless thought or action, no matter how simple, can have devastating impact. Human nature dictates that the higher your comfort level is with a particular job or activity, the more automatic your approach and effort will be. There is nothing automatic about safety, and there can be no shortcuts. Safety should be built into your daily activities, not added on later. The daily work habits of every employee on a job site must incorporate safe productivity at all times. Yes, it is the responsibility of the employer to ensure the work environment is free of recognized hazards. However, it is the responsibility of every employee to make sure that their own work habits are safe as well. No other possibility can be permitted. The final consideration is you, the individual. The bottom line is that every individual must work safely. How you are feeling and what you are thinking are critical to the safety formula. For example, if you are overly tired, sick, or upset, it is impossible to concentrate on safety. Safety demands awareness, and awareness can only occur if you are alert and focused on what you and the others around you are doing. Drugs and alcohol are strictly forbidden and will not be tolerated. On-the-job safety is a team effort, and you are part of the team. If you see a potential hazard, you owe it to yourself and to your fellow employees to do something to minimize, or better yet, eliminate the hazard. Do not simply ignore it. Getting everyone focused on safety needs to be a first step of every day's work. It can be handled in just a few minutes, and it is time that will reinforce safety awareness as well as create total work efficiency. Every supervisor should have a written checklist to follow and complete with the crew before leaving the yard or starting work for the day. All equipment, supplies, and tools should be checked daily to make sure they are in safe working order. A quick check at the start of the day ensures that the right tool for each job is available and that it is in proper condition. This process will minimize downtime later. Slings, shackles, chains, hooks with safety latches, and wire rope should be inspected to ensure good operating condition and that each has sufficient capacity to do the jobs that will be required. Hand or power tools must be in good working order. Any item that is not in the proper condition should be fixed or replaced. Do not use it. The correct personal protective equipment is a must for worker safety. All workers must have a hard hat and safety glasses. Low-cuff gloves and sturdy work boots or shoes are essential. Consult your employer for any necessary additional equipment. Clothing should be comfortable but suited to the job. Most ADSC contractors require employees working on a drilled shaft site to wear high-visibility garments, such as vests, shirts, or coats, for all employees. Eye protection must be worn at all times. Hearing protection must be used when noise levels reach 90 decibels. A good rule of thumb is if you have to shout to be heard, then hearing protection must be worn. Equipment operators should always use hearing protection. It is very important to inspect dedicated drill rigs, crane mount drills, and all cranes on a daily basis. This inspection must be documented. A checklist is the most common format. Boom sections and masts must be inspected frequently. Damaged sections must be repaired according to the manufacturer's requirements or replaced. In addition, inspect the equipment frame and other parts of the structure for flaking paint. Looking underneath may reveal cracks or rust, worn areas, bent components, and other signs of wear and damage. It is highly recommended that all walkways be treated to ensure a non-slip surface. Clear any buildups of dirt and dispose of any debris. Walk areas should be free of oil. This is especially important for crane rigs, where personnel are working at greater heights with more frequency. Before startup, check the fluid levels of all reservoirs. Engine oil, hydraulic fluid, and fuel should all be at the manufacturer's recommended levels. Add fluids with the engine off. Check the condition of the hydraulic and pneumatic systems, the hoses and their connections. Use extreme caution if repairing or replacing hydraulic hoses or cylinders. The oil is under pressure and may also be very hot. Severe injury can result from pressurized hydraulic oil entering your skin or the cylinder violently moving in an uncontrolled manner. Take the time to properly bleed down all stored hydraulic pressure before working on the system. Verify daily that all guard covers and screens are in place. If you must remove a guard to inspect or adjust, replace it before starting the engine. Use caution around rotating shafts, gears, and other mechanical components. And don't forget to inspect the rig's wire rope for any defects or damage. Lubricate the wire rope often. Each rig must have an approved dry chemical fire extinguisher in place at all times. Inspect it daily. Before leaving the yard or job site, a final check of all vehicles must be completed. Make sure all functional parts of each vehicle, such as brakes, turn indicators, lights, and mirrors, are operating properly. Any items extending beyond the body of the vehicle should be marked with high visibility flags. Next, check to ensure that all loads are well balanced and completely secure. No items should be stored loosely on any vehicle. Make sure all equipment, supplies, materials, and tools are securely stored in a manner that will prevent shifting. Protect any items that could be damaged during transport. Eliminate all potential for any items to fall or fly from the vehicle while moving. Consult your local and state Department of Transportation for any further requirements. Some dedicated drill rigs and cranes must be partially disassembled for transport. Follow the manufacturer's procedures completely. Do not shortcut any assembly procedure. Do not substitute any non-manufacturer's parts, fasteners, or components with items you may find in the toolbox or elsewhere. The use of substituted items may cause a structural failure in the dedicated drill rig or crane. Organization and good housekeeping are important to both efficiency and safety. Before any work or unloading of vehicles occurs, several steps are required. First, a site safety inspection must be made. Everyone on the crew must be made aware of the results of this effort. Any potential dangers in or around the total work area must be identified. Overhead power lines are killers. In fact, contact with an energized overhead power line is the #1 killer of employees working with or around a crane. A drill rig is no different. If power lines are near the work area, special precautions must be taken. Assume all overhead lines are live. At no time should any part of a drill rig or crane be allowed to enter the danger zone that surrounds an energized line. The danger zone clearance should never be less than 10 feet and must be increased at voltages exceeding 50 kilovolts. When equipment is being transported or is moving from one work area to another, there are minimum required clearances for transit. If you must work closer than 10 feet to a power line, make sure it is de-energized before any work is permitted. Please note that OSHA has changed the requirements for safe crane operations near power lines as of November 2010. Please consult CFR 1926.1408 of the Construction Safety Standards for more detailed information. It is recommended that you adhere to these requirements for all equipment, not just mobile cranes. If contact is made with a live power line, the procedure for all personnel must be clearly understood. The operator should remain on the equipment. No ground personnel should approach or touch the equipment until the power is turned off or the contact has clearly been broken. If a person is within an energized zone, they should exit the zone by keeping their feet in contact with the ground. Shuffle one's feet or move heel to toe until clear of the energized zone. If it is necessary to help an employee who is in the live electrical loop, you must move live wires with insulated devices to break contact. Before any drilling or other type of excavation takes place, it is necessary to check for underground hazards. Someone from your company must contact the local Call Before You Dig system. Most states require a minimum of 48 hours or 2 working days advance notice for this survey to take place. All underground utilities, such as electric, gas, water, sewer, telephone, and fiber optic lines or utility vaults must be physically located prior to starting work. Now, this process should occur before arriving at the site, but a simple on-site check for signs from utility or phone companies is still a good idea. You simply cannot afford to take a chance with underground utilities. The repair costs for damage to a utility can be enormous. The possibility of someone losing his or her life is even greater. Call before you dig. Other dangers the crew might encounter include work in limited space, site obstructions, and the equipment and crew activity of other contractors on the same site. Special attention should be given to traffic whenever work must be done on or near roadways. Most states require posting signs, cones, and even trained personnel if work is to be done near traffic. Do not make the mistake of letting these precautions replace your own safety awareness. Stay alert. Before the rig can be set up on a job, a site safety supervisor should be established. This person is usually the project supervisor or foreman, but it may also be the drill rig operator. Your employer will designate this individual as the site safety competent person. As the safety competent person, this individual must be able to recognize existing or potential hazards in the worksite. They must have the authority to take prompt and corrective action to minimize or eliminate these hazards. The last item to be addressed is an area work plan. To the extent possible, it is highly desirable to keep the job site clear. This is most effectively accomplished by identifying specific areas around the site for storage of materials, scrap, staging, fabrication, and other major space requirements. This may need to be moved around periodically as work activity dictates. It is in everyone's best interest to know and observe the area plan. After the site inspection is complete and all crew members have been briefed, preparations can begin for drilling. Cranes and dedicated drill rigs must be set up and worked from a level and stable platform. This may require simply grading the area with a loader or dozer, or placing crushed stone or crane mats to better stabilize the area. The time you invest in keeping the worksite dry, stable, and level will pay for itself in the long run. Before the drill rig can be set up, specific authorization from the superintendent or supervisor should be given to the operator. This should only be accomplished after ground conditions are checked for support capability and notification has been given to the crew that the rig is about to be set up. Ground support is critical to rig stability. If the potential for caving soil exists, pads must be placed under outriggers or crawler tracks to ensure solid support. If the ground support is not sufficient to ensure absolute rig stability, the probability of a catastrophic accident is high. Never underestimate ground conditions. Track-mounted drill rigs or cranes must have the trackside frames fully extended to obtain maximum stability. Do not operate a drill rig without the side frames fully extended. After the outriggers are securely placed or the tracks are fully extended, the mast should be slowly raised to the full position before the power unit is moved. No ground personnel should be in the immediate rig area during setup. It is always advisable to have a designated spotter be responsible for making certain that the area is clear before giving clearance to the operator. Again, no ground personnel should be in the area, and it is critical to remain alert to any potential overhead obstructions. Operators must be aware of the presence of all ground personnel in the immediate vicinity of the rig before swinging or extending the power section. A spotter should be designated to ensure safe movement of the equipment. The operator and spotter should make sure no personnel are in the path of the drill rig when it is traveling or swinging. All movement of the power section should be slow and controlled. At no time should any load pass above any personnel. Blind spots around the rig do exist. If you cannot see the operator's eyes, they cannot see you. It is critical that all personnel be aware that the risk involved with being in a blind spot in the swing area is not injury, it is death. When working on crane-mounted rigs, OSHA regulations require that a barricade should be placed around the entire swing radius. Dedicated drill rigs should also have swing radius in place at all times. Falls account for 33% of all deaths in the construction industry. The use of fall protection is mandatory around a drilled shaft operation. Once the shaft reaches 6 feet in depth, some form of fall protection must be in place at all times during drilling, setting cages, and concrete pouring. To prevent individuals from accidentally falling into the open shaft, there are several choices. The use of a physical barrier, such as extended casing, or a portable guardrail system, must be in place at all times. If a physical barrier is not possible, employees must be required to tie off to a fixed object capable of supporting 5,000 pounds. Climbing to a height of 6 feet or more to inspect or service equipment requires the use of personal fall arrest systems, such as a full body harness and lanyard. A retractable lifeline may offer a wider range of protection for working on the drill rig. Remember, falls from height is the #1 killer of employees in the construction industry. Standing on or attaching directly to a lifting hook is not permitted. The potential for serious accidents in such practices is too high. Do not allow this type of activity on your job. The ADSC's recommended procedures for fall protection in shaft excavation operations is a good basic source of information. Take fall protection seriously. It may save your life. Working on the auger or tool while it is suspended in the air requires that the gears be disengaged. There should be no chance of spinning while any work is occurring. When changing or adjusting teeth on augers or any other drilling tools, use the proper tools and always wear eye and face protection. There is a major danger of flying chips whenever using a hammer to insert teeth. The operator should be in position during all activity to ensure rapid response to any sudden emergency situation, such as brakes failing. When hooking up or unhooking tools to the Kelly, always rest the tool on the ground. A major danger of amputation exists during this process. Gloves must be used and extreme caution must be observed. Never place fingers into Kelly bolt holes and keep hands clear of the Kelly box while extending the Kelly. Always secure Kelly bolts with adequate fasteners. When working with core barrels, under-reamers, and drilling buckets, a few added safety measures are necessary to avoid serious injury or death. First, never rapidly spin the tool in an attempt to aid emptying. This will not help discharge the spoil, but it can present a serious risk of flying objects, such as bucket doors. Next, if it becomes necessary to physically force the load out by prying, be very aware that at any given instant, the load will suddenly drop. Do not expose yourself to the risk of being caught in this hazard, not even for an instant. Additional hazards are present whenever lifting of heavy objects is required, such as with casing and rebar cages. A number of dangers must be recognized. A safe lift can only be accomplished if the lifting equipment and the rigging have the capacity to hoist the load. You must know the weight of the load prior to hoisting it. If you do not know the weight of the load, you may not size the rigging correctly and have a rigging failure. Or you may cause the dedicated drill rig or auxiliary crane to tip over or structurally fail. Remember that dedicated drill rigs are not cranes. They have very limited lifting capacity. Consult the manufacturer or operator's manual before you use the dedicated drill rig to lift using the auxiliary winch. A lift plan must be created to ensure the dedicated drill rig's limited capabilities are not exceeded. If the drill rig is capable of hoisting the load, it should be lifted on the side of the mast away from the operator. Next, make sure the load is securely attached. This can be handled with straps or hooks with safety latches. But the best way to attach any load is with a shackle and screw pin. A minimum of 2 attaching points is necessary. The attaching points must be strong enough to support the entire load. On rebar cages, never attach at the extreme top of the cage and never attach to the rings. The best way to attach to rebar is to locate the point at least 3 feet from the top and wrap directly to the rebar. It is good technique to place spiders in rebar cages that require added stability and to double tie the fabrication. Inspect the rebar cage before you lift it. Also, all wires should be turned in to avoid the potential for sticking or scratching skin during handling. For larger reinforcing cages, engineered lifting devices and multiple lift points may be required to safely hoist the cage into place. Whenever any object is lifted, it is mandatory that all personnel in the area are clear of any potential danger and aware that the lift is occurring. Taglines must be used on any lift. No load should pass over any ground personnel. Check with your supervisor before attaching any rigging devices to a cage or casing. When lifting any load, it is essential that one person be responsible for giving all ground instructions to the operator and that they be well versed in all hand signals. During the entire lift process, this individual must have absolute authority and no distractions. When pushing or spinning casing above ground level, it is mandatory that all personnel in the immediate area remain alert. When placing concrete, a number of potential hazards exist depending on the methods used. Employees must wear gloves and eye protection. Concrete is caustic, meaning it may burn your skin. Wash off any concrete that splashes onto your skin as soon as it is possible. If any concrete gets into your eyes, you must immediately flush your eyes with water. Medical attention may be required to completely remove any remaining foreign objects and treat any damage to the eye. When pumping concrete, only experienced personnel should be used. Watch for the potential whipping of the discharge hose. All hose connections must be protected by whip checks or whip socks. If vibrating will occur, a real danger of electrocution or severe shock is present. Keep power cords out of any accumulated water. Before using electric vibrators, make sure the equipment is grounded and well insulated. A properly sized ground fault circuit interrupter, GFCI, will also prevent electrical shock. If the vibrator is difficult to extract from the concrete, disconnect the power supply before attempting to remove it. Drilling fluids present an inherent danger whenever they are used. Because of the slippery characteristic of the mud, combined with the fact that it finds its way to virtually every part of the site, there can be a higher potential for slips and falls. Whenever mud exists on a job site, great care must be taken by all personnel when getting into positions that demand precise footing. Many accidents resulting from falling off equipment are directly related to slippery footing due to mud. The obvious danger presented by an open hole on the job site is not to be taken lightly. When a shaft is being drilled, the operator and at least one member of the ground crew must be responsible for ensuring that no one in or around the area is in danger. If the shaft is not being worked on at any time, acceptable precautions to ensure safety will depend on the immediate plan for the shaft. Under all circumstances, it is a good idea to have designated covers and use them. If access to the shaft is desired within a short period of time and personnel will be in the immediate area, the shaft should either be attended or covered and secured. The cover must be capable of supporting several hundred pounds. It must have a safety railing on all sides. If the shaft will be left alone for extended periods of time, or if no personnel will be in the area, The shaft must be covered and secured to prevent ready access. Safety must control every aspect of your thoughts, both at work and at home. On-the-job safety is a matter of life and death. Yes, the demands of a tight schedule and project budget are always present, but they simply cannot outweigh the need for continuous project safety. Quality control, productivity, and safety go hand in hand. If you sacrifice one to obtain the other two, you have accomplished nothing. Working safely increases productivity and quality control because it forces you to plan your work correctly. You are responsible for safety. Mark Twain once said, "It is better to be careful 100 times than to get killed once." So remember, luck runs out. Safety is good for life.
Safety to me is a necessity in order to enjoy my family and to go home to my family and my fellow co-workers to enjoy a successful career in an industry that has potential of being very dangerous.